Sometimes the game of life is harder than it needs to be. Sometimes it's easier. And sometimes it's so hard you fold before you see the rest of the cards to be dealt. In life, I got dealt some pretty terrible hands. Every once in a while, I'd get a break and get a little further in the game, and then the dealer would knock me back down a peg. And when I was finally out of chips, I folded. They say death is the long sleep. Everything is calm and black, and all your worries fade away. Whoever was in charge of mine didn't get that memo. At first it was quiet and dark. I didn't even realize I was dead at first, and I don't know how long it was like that. Then the lights started. Bright flashes in the dark space like someone taking pictures in a pitch black room. Eventually, the flashes became a steady glow, and I was floating in what I could only describe as a sea of clouds. Misty masses of blues, purples, and greens floated around me as far as I could see, and I drifted weightless amongst them, half aware of the fact that I was no longer corporeal. Time in the afterlife is a weird soup. Everything happens slowly, but also in an instant, as if eternity could just snap into existence. It was 2006 when I left the world. I remember that. I remember all of my favorite things from being alive. And even floating in the clouds, I clung to as much of it as I could. My spirit didn't want to let go of who I was. That fact was probably what kept me floating there in this colorful purgatory. I just drifted along, singing pieces of my favorite songs in a voice that was both mine, but sounded so far away it didn't feel like mine. It's one of these moments, singing to myself, when I spotted a bright spot amongst my clouds. At first, it was a tiny star in the distance, barely catching my attention. As it fluttered closer, it pulled my curiosity, and I struggled to focus on what had become a little blue butterfly, circling the air as if trying to get me to follow it. It was hard to do anything but continue my lazy floating, but I tried my hardest, pulled in by this little glowing insect. I followed, led by its sparkling trail until my familiar clouds started to fade away, and the luminescence of its wings started to engulf my vision. And about the time that light became almost too unbearable to look at, and I had to close my eyes against it, it was gone. When I opened my eyes again, I hovered inside the foyer of a manor that looked both immaculate and run down at the same time. The walls seemed to breathe with their own life force, and the butterflies seemed to have forgotten me, flitting across the banisters of the staircase and past closed doors on the upper floor as if knocking to alert the occupants. Slowly, the disheveled facade of the place faded away, like the manor was waking up after being asleep for an eternity. From a side door, a tall figure in an old-style plague doctor mask emerged and showed no signs of being surprised at my arrival. As he approached me, human instinct kicked back in, and I backed away from him, bumping my partially corporeal butt into a side table and knocking a dusty vase to the floor, sound making me cringe while I turned a side-eye to the still calm figure who now seemed to be laughing at me.
It seems we have a pesky poltergeist in the manor now,
He said, and held out a gloved hand to me as if inviting me to dance.
Welcome home. We've been waiting for you.
As if on cue of his words, I heard hundreds of doors open with staggered clicks. And when I looked at the upper floor where the butterfly had made its trail, translucent figures of all shapes and sizes floated to the railing in curiosity and excitement, like a sea of Halloween chic ghosts. Some of them whispering to each other, "She's here! Pesky's here! Mama's home!" And in that moment, I never felt more alive.